This week, how and when does a relationship become exclusive? Is it just assumed at some point, or do you have to have the talk?
Mhm.
Also, some people date for fun, others date for sex, but some of us date with the intent to find our person. Should that intent mean marriage? You decide. Welcome to the talking phase. Happy Friday. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Talking Phase podcast. My name is Tom. I'm excited to be here. And as always, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Pam. Pam, what's happening?
I don't know. I kind of miss you calling me beautiful, though.
Oh, she is beautiful.
I'm kidding.
She's gorgeous.
What's going on? What's going on? In order to see us, you guys have to be listening to us on YouTube.
Or Spotify now.
Yeah, that's true. I forget. I always forget that there's videos up on Spotify. Makes me think of my Spotify Wrapped. Did you get your Spotify Wrapped yesterday?
I haven't seen that. What is it?
Okay, well, when you log on to Spotify, not for the podcast, but for your music, that you use it to listen to music ever? All right, well, it'll give you like a whole video that shows you who your number one artists are and how many times you played them and how long you listen to them. I think it's really creative. They do it
Is that where
every
everyone's
year.
posting that on Facebook? That's where
We
you got
got it.
that?
Yeah, and we got it on for the podcast too, but it's not as much fun for the podcast. So anyway, and if you can believe it, my favorite artist was Taylor Swift.
I
And my
can't believe
top
it.
5 most streamed songs were all Taylor Swift, but, Chapel Ronan was up there and Blue October and all my favorites. So it's really exciting to watch the Spotify Wrapped video. They have a video or you can listen to it on audio. But other than listening to that, I am wrapping and getting ready. I start to wrap early because I dislike it, but I have been shopping like crazy. I celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas, even though I'm agnostic. I don't know how I got roped into hosting and celebrating all these holidays. I'm speaking to a couple people, but I've told them that I'm not going to meet anybody until the new year. So if they stick it out, I may have a couple of dates on the horizon. And if they don't, that's fine too. Right now, I'm just focusing on the holidays and all of the joy that I can spread.
Nice. That's a great way to be.
How about you, Tom? What's going on over there in freezing, brittle Utah?
Yeah, it's actually been so far. It's been a decent weather for Utah. If you've never been to Salt Lake in December and January, we have this thing. It's called the inversion layer because we live in a valley. So the warm air rises and basically traps all the cold air in the valley, and you've got this brown layer across the top. So we have some of the worst air quality in the world, literally, in January. It's
That
awful.
sounds horrible.
It is. I'll have to send you a picture. It's kind of a strange thing. I'll send you a picture because it's very visible. You can see the layers of air.
Ugh.
But I have really, I haven't. I'm not really a birthday holiday type of a guy, but I've really been enjoying this holiday season. Being back here in Salt Lake, being close to family, obviously spending some time with Laura has been great. In fact, there's a big step coming up.
4-week anniversary. What's happening?
Yeah, 4-week anniversary. That's funny. No, Monday night, we're going out for Laura's birthday, and I will be meeting her kids for the first time.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, that is a big step, and we've actually already started trying to find a time that she can meet my kids. So yeah, it's we might as well just like buy a house together and settle down at this point.
Just get married. How old are her kids?
Let's see. Her twins are 20 or 21, and her oldest is like 25 or 26.
Good.
So,
Good
all
ages.
girls.
Nice adult children. That checks that box off.
Absolutely. Yeah, she has all girls. I have all boys. So and we both have twins, which I think is awesome.
That's really funny.
We
What
went
a
to an event.
coincidence.
We went to an event last week with a friend of hers, actually, and she brought her twins. So all three of us had a set of twins, which is just weird to me, but whatever.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So thinking of settling down, we all know that my relationship, anybody who's been listening to us knows that this relationship I'm in was completely unplanned, unintended, completely unexpected, which in my mind, that's the best way to go.
And friends first. Like, we did a whole episode, if you guys listened, on being friends first, and you guys were friends for a really long time before you started dating.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 5 really good years of friendship, but 5 years before that of at least knowing each other. So yeah, it's been 10 years,
Right.
but it is going really well. And one of the things is one of the must haves on my list is that she dates with intent. But what does that really mean? I mean, I'm really having a great time with Laura. We're having a blast. It's just fun. But does intent mean what? That you're going to get married,
Well,
um, or not? What do you think?
are you asking me what I think that intent is really literally whatever your definition is. I think that if you're in your 20s or your 30s, it's almost definitely marriage, own a home, have kids, weddings, all of that exciting stuff that Nikki and Adam are gonna do because they are in their early 30s. But I think intent in your 40s or your 50s or older, or post divorce, grown kids, living on your own and independent, I think intent is completely different. I mean, I know for me, my intentions are completely different now than they were 25 years ago when I met my husband. Um, so I think that dating with intent for me would just mean dating for the sole purpose of getting to know somebody well enough to decide whether I could have a forever relationship with them, but not marriage.
So what's interesting is, and you've heard me use this phrase before, my ex-wife-in-law. So the ex-wife of my ex-wife's husband,
Right.
um, she recently remarried, and she and I have had many long conversations about, is marriage an important thing? And in my mind, I mean, if you strip the religion out of it, and which I have stripped religion out of my life entirely, so it's easy for me to say this. But if you strip religion away, marriage is really it's a contract with the government that says this woman gets my shit when I die.
Right.
Um, that's that's pretty much it. Now, the only other thing that marriage does, in my opinion, that gives you a tax break, which isn't
Yeah, I
that
was gonna
great
say that.
anymore.
Right.
And your spouse gets to make healthcare decisions.
But they
Um,
can do that anyway.
what
With
do you
I
mean
mean,
they
you
can
don't
do
need
that?
to be married to have paperwork drawn up.
Right. No, I understand. But marriage automatically makes that happen. Um, and so, again, if you strip religion away, you've got taxation and healthcare decisions. Other than that, what's the value? And so, what's the intent? And so, when people like Adam and Nikki, they're getting married. Why?
Well,
And I'm
someday. They're
I'm
not
not.
engaged yet, but
Oh, I know, but let's assume.
right? Why? I
Yeah, why
think
would he get married?
well, I think that they're both old school. And I think that that thought process is still alive and well in your 20s and 30s. I think that marriage is the end goal for people who have never been married before, because they're living in that puppy kisses and butterfly world where we love each other. And the only way that we can prove that we love each other enough is to have a ceremony, with or without a contract. But then they want to have children. And if you want to have children, you really do want to be that nuclear family where, mom, dad, two kids, and a dog own a house. I mean, I just think it's a rite of passage. I don't
Huh.
think it's so much about the contract. I just think for them, especially, that they are so in love with each other that the best way that they know how to document that love is with a wedding. I mean,
Interesting. So my ex-wife-in-law, when I was talking to her about it, I said, "Why do you care?" Because she said she wouldn't date anybody who wasn't willing to get married at some point. Um,
oh,
and you and I've had this conversation that if I was
right,
dating someone and it was important to her, I don't really give a shit. That's fine. I
right,
will never bring it up.
right.
But my ex-wife-in-law, she said, "No, I think it's an important thing because it shows commitment."
Hmm.
And I'm not
Commitment
sure.
with who? The government?
Right, exactly. That's the way I saw it. I think I said those exact words.
Like, what does she know what the divorce rates look like? I mean, if I had lunch with a good friend yesterday. It's a male friend, and we talk about a lot of things that have to do with relationships and such. And I said, um, I will never end another relationship where I have to hire a lawyer. period. Like,
Hmm.
I just, you know, if I love you and we're in a relationship, whether we're living together, whether we're just, you know, loving each other from separate, living apart together, which we've also done another episode on, I want the freedom where if you start treating me badly and I don't enjoy that relationship anymore, or if I start treating you badly, whatever, it can go both ways. I want to be able to just sit down and have a conversation and then move on with the rest of my life. All of the litigation and bullshit that comes with marriage that I have gone through multiple times at this point in my life, I don't want to do that again. And I don't really want to be with somebody who feels like they need a contract for me to prove that I love them. I think that unfortunately, a lot of people like her do feel like marriage is the only way that you can prove that you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very bizarre to me. And everybody knows that's been listening to the show. I used to be a Mormon. I was the most conservative, socially conservative person on earth in terms of marriage and sex outside of marriage and all that kind of stuff. And I look at back at that now and I'm like, what the hell? I just don't even understand. But I will say one thing about your situation there, Pam.
Mhm.
I'm not a divorce attorney. Or an attorney of any kind. So please do not take this as legal advice. But I have heard from divorce attorneys that if you've been living with someone for a long time and they're not married, it's actually messier to break
Se-
up,
7 years common law.
whatever it is.
Right.
That it's actually harder to split the assets or whatever in a non-official marriage than in an official marriage. So something to consider there.
I don't need that. I don't need that confusion in my life. I don't need to even know that. Quite honestly, though, I think that you probably would have had to like join your accounts or something like that. You'd have to commingle funds. I like the idea of being in a phenomenal relationship with somebody that is my best friend, my partner, my lover. I want all the trifecta. I want all of those things. And if I was to find all of those things in somebody and it was and you've said this yourself, and I have said I still don't want to get married. But if
Hmm.
I told somebody, and I tell people from the very beginning, like I don't like assume or let them assume that this is going to lead to marriage. I let them know right away that I'm not interested in getting married again. And I have gone on dates with people that when we have that conversation, I can literally see the curtain close in front of their eyes. Like they're marrying people, they want
Uh,
to be married. So clearly those things didn't work out. But now that I've been single longer and I've had more time to talk about all of these things with you on this podcast, I think that if somebody needed to get married and was willing to sign the humongous prenup that comes with marrying me, that like it's not, I wouldn't lose the love of my life over not being willing to marry them. Because if I'm honest, the two happiest days of my life were my weddings. Like those 2 days, I had so much hope, and I've never felt more beautiful or more loved. And just those days are extremely memorable, way more memorable than the divorce. And so I have fond memories of getting married, but I hope that whoever I end up with, if I end up with anybody, will not think that a contract is necessary for proof.
well, I'm just going to say that I am personally offended that you don't find every time we record an episode a happiest day of your life.
Well, a little bit. I mean, it's one of the happiest days.
Okay.
And not in the beginning. In the beginning, all I felt was really nervous and stressed out. But now that we sit down and have these conversations, I quite honestly, and I talk to so many people that I'm friendly with that listen to the show and like want to talk to me about an episode that we did and, elaborate on how they feel. I learn, it's like therapy. I learn more about myself sometimes during this time than I do other ways. I just feel like whether that's listening to your point of view on something or whether it's just over time realizing that I am, again, like I said last week, putting myself into a corner where, okay, I meet a great, phenomenal, fantastic man and he wants to have a relationship, but he wants to get married someday. And I'm like, no. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to move on. Like
Mhm.
then it's my loss. And so I feel like I need to be more open-minded, live more in the gray of kind of whatever happens, happens. The only thing I know that I won't do again is have a long distance relationship. Like like that's a non-starter for me because it's just a waste of time. You can't spend enough time with somebody long distance to get to know whether they're somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with. So
I
for
would agree.
me, that's just, lessons learned. But for the rest of it, yeah, I think that I believe in commitment, complete commitment, and have no problem being in a committed relationship. But yeah,
So,
would prefer.
so you think that at this point, do you think marriage is just basically outdated overall?
Hard to say yes because of Nikki and Adam, because it's something and it was so important to me in my 20s and 30s when I got married. Um, I don't know that I think it's outdated. I think it's maybe out value. It's not the value people put on it. Like if you look at the successful couples in Hollywood, they aren't married or they haven't got married. If you look at the divorce rate, marriage doesn't guarantee you anything.
Oh,
It's so easy to get divorced. It's a pain in the ass, but you're not going to have to spend the rest of your life with somebody if you don't want to. So really, you're not getting any more of a commitment just
no.
because you stood in front of your friends and family. Most of us stood in front of our friends and family once, sometimes twice, and we're still single. So
Yeah.
it's not necessary, but I respect the institution. And if somebody wants to do it, then I thoroughly think that they should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it, go for it. That's pretty much how I am with anything, though. Do whatever you want. And even like I said, if I'm with someone and she says I want to get married, all right. I mean, but it's just not going to come from my side of the fence, is what it comes down to.
But do you tell somebody you're dating right away? Like, have you talked to Laura and told her, "I'd like to not get married again"?
No,
You've
no.
not told her. Does she listen to
Ironically,
does she listen to our podcast?
I don't think so. By
Because
the
she
way,
knows now.
but here's the thing about it is that it's ironic because I'm usually the black and white guy. For me, this is a gray area. I don't
Right.
care really that much. That's why it's not on my list of anything. I'm not going to bring it up one way or the other.
So I've become more like you
On
in
this
this
issue.
area. Yeah, I just feel like at this point, I can't even find anybody I want to date. So the
Yeah.
thought of being able to find somebody I want to marry feels like I can say, sure, I would get married again because it feels so unlikely to me. I
Yeah.
just feel like I honestly do not believe that we are meant to spend our entire life with one person. But Adam's parents, who I hung out with this weekend, and they're great. Um, they're older than me, I think about 10 years older than me, and they've been married since high school. And
Oh, wow.
I do believe that they are high school sweethearts and they got married and they are a perfect couple and they are happily married. So I think that for some people they do get lucky the first
Yeah.
time around. But for me, I just think that we grow and we change so much that when you get in our generation, we got married in our 20s. We didn't even know who we are yet. A
Absolutely.
man's brain doesn't even fully mature until I think he's 27 years old. And they're married before that. So then their brain matures and they change. And the woman's like, oh, this isn't what I signed on for. Or he says that. And the marriage ends. So I think it's overrated. I think that you can be committed and have a family and you could even change your name without getting married. You can do all those things without a
Yeah.
contract.
Couldn't agree more. I think we're on the same page there. I'd be interested to hear. In fact, let's take a moment to say before we move into our next segment, everybody take a moment just right now and make a quick comment on whatever platform you're using right now. To give us a rating and review and let us know what you think about marriage, about long-term dating, intent. What does it mean to you to actually date with intent? And does intent have to mean marriage? I'd be very intrigued to hear what you have to say about that. And I appreciate that right up front. So with that, let's move on to that next segment.
All right.
You've got
Ooh.
mail.
I will read this email with intent.
Okay.
Hi, Pam and Tom. I'm hoping you can help me figure this out because I'm feeling really frustrated and unsure of how to handle the situation I'm in. I've been dating this woman for a couple of months now. I really like her and I thought things were going great. But recently I found out that she's still seeing other people.
Ugh,
She is not dating with intent.
right.
When I brought it up, she told me that because we haven't officially defined the relationship, she doesn't see anything wrong with keeping her options open. I get that we haven't had quote
Hmm.
unquote the talk. But in my mind, when I'm dating somebody, I'm all in from the beginning. I don't date other people and I expect the same from the person I'm seeing. Is this kind of what you just said about Laura and intent and just only focusing on one person? So
Hmm.
you're like this guy.
I
Now
am.
I'm stuck. I'm trying to figure out if I'm being unreasonable. Is it wrong to want exclusivity even before things are officially defined? Should I have been clearer about my expectations sooner? Or is it unrealistic to expect someone to stop dating others before you've committed? Thanks for any insight you can give me. Confused and frustrated. Well, this is to me, this is an easy one. So you go first.
This couldn't be more timely for me
Oh,
because again, this is not about the Tom and Laura relationship podcast or anything, but
but it is. No,
it's
just kidding.
fascinating how much this affects me right now, stuff like this, because Laura and I, again, we're celebrating our what, 4.5 week anniversary or whatever you were joking about earlier.
Right.
Um, but so we have not had the talk. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. We had not had that talk until this morning.
Oh, how ironic.
And the reason we had the talk is first off, this email when you sent it to me, and I'm like,
Right.
oh crap, that's weird. We haven't had the talk. But then yesterday afternoon, I went to an event with a sales partner that Brian and I work with. He invited me to this event here in town, and so there's 7 or 8 of us sitting around at this happy hour, and I'd never met this lady before, and she's married. We're having these fun conversations, and then she goes, "Are you into older women?" And
Hmm.
I'm like,
No, I
"What?
have a 30-year-old.
No, yeah." I said, "No, what are you talking about?" She goes, "Because I think it'd be great if I could set you up with my mom." Now she's in her
Oh,
late 30s, so you know,
could
so
be.
she, so it, I don't know how old her mom is, and she goes, "I promise you, she's totally hot." This is this woman talking about her mom.
That's how
And
Nikki would talk about me if she was trying to set me up. So I believe that this story is true.
yeah, and I said, "I'm sure she is, but I'm seeing someone." Even though Laura and I had not had the talk.
Oh,
And so this morning, Laura's out of town, so she called me when she landed, and I said, "Okay, I have something I need to ask you." And so I basically just told her that story. I said,
yes.
"And I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds by saying, you know, I'm seeing someone, but I kind of think we are." And she goes, "Well, of course we are." And I said,
Right.
"Okay,
Especially when you told her that there was somebody wanting to set you up. That's the best way to ask if you're in a relationship.
oh really?
Well, I think that we all as women have a little fear of loss if we're dating somebody and we're starting to have feelings and we're liking them, even if we're not ready to define the relationship. If you give us a little fear of loss, you're going to get us to define it a lot faster.
Holy crap, I didn't even think about that." I was literally just like, I thought that I had made a mistake almost, that I had like, not that I'd made a mistake by saying I'm seeing someone, but that I had said something about it to Laura and told her the story rather than just asking if we are exclusive.
No, I think that was the best way possible to ask if you were exclusive. And it just happened to be something that happened in a timely fashion for you.
Huh. Well, okay then. Yeah, yay me. All
All
right.
right.
So with that, I want to ask you that question though. I need you to help all men out. Men are stupid. I can say that as a representative of our gender, that we're all pretty stupid when it comes to this shit. So
I don't know
help us
about that.
out, Pam. Do we need to have the talk, or is it just assumed? Tell us how we should do this.
Well, let's look at this email. This is a man who is telling us that he is only dating one woman and he doesn't want her to date anybody else.
Uh-huh.
But he has not said that to her. She doesn't know what he's doing when they're not together. And so she's dating other people and assumes that he is too. And that's what's normal in today's world. From what I've learned from friends and from my own experiences is that everybody is dating multiple people right up until the minute that they're not. So you could be dating 2, 3, 4 people. It doesn't have to be like you're seeing them every day or every week, but they're all in your phone contacts. You're in contact with them. You have possible plans coming up, whatever the case may be. Until your feelings are strong enough for one person to do what you did, basically, and say, is this monogamous? Are we in a relationship? Should we still be dating other people? Unless you say that, the other person isn't psychic. They don't know what you're doing when you're not with them. I do think that in a lot of situations, it's safe to assume, but sometimes, you know what they say about assuming, it
Yeah.
makes an ass out of you and me. So if you assume that somebody's not dating other people and you're only dating them and you haven't talked about it, then I'm sorry, but you are a little bit dumb because this is 2024. We all have videos, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You're watching enough videos to know that people are shopping for partners, whether they want it to be casual, whether they want it to be serious. It doesn't matter. While you're shopping, if I'm in the grocery store and I'm torn between the almond milk that's 30 calories and doesn't have added flavor, or the one that's 80 and does have added flavor, as long as I'm standing there torn between those two cartons of milk, I can pick whichever one I want. And so, God, I just made that up in my head. So
That's an analogy.
God only knows why I chose almond milk. I'm never torn. I always go with the 30-calorie one. But at the end of the day, if you haven't had a conversation about what this relationship means, and especially if you're sleeping with somebody and you don't know what they're doing 4 days a week because you're not talking about it, you should assume that they are seeing other people and you better wear protection, because that's what I see happening around me. I see people at different pages on the same book. The guy's on chapter 3, the woman's on chapter 33. She's committed, he's not. He's committed, she's not. So there's never a good reason to not have a conversation about where you are and where you're headed. And if you haven't done that, then you have no right to have expectations of the other person.
So, what's interesting about that, before I had that conversation with her, I was fairly confident. I was 95% sure that we were exclusive. But and
Especially when you talked about meeting each other's kids. You don't do that if it's not exclusive.
okay, yeah, that's true. But the other thing is, for me, it's like, not only do we see each other 3, 4 nights a week, um, we've already moved into it's assumed that we're going to see each other on the weekends.
Right.
But it's also, we see stuff. She sees something on Facebook, for example, some concert coming up, and she said we should go to this. And we have we've got a calendar now of shit that we're planning to do all the way into March.
Right.
And so
I'm
to me,
jealous.
that was,
I'm
yeah,
jealous because that's the joy of having a relationship that's not long distance.
right. But that's, for me, that's why I was like, almost like I should just assume that we're exclusive. I mean, she doesn't have time to go out with anyone else. I don't have time to go out with anyone else. So for me, it was like an assumed close. But then I'm like, I read this email, and then that lady yesterday is asking me if I want to go out with her mom. And I'm like, well, shit, maybe I need to get it to 100%, which,
Right, and I think you did the right thing. I mean, I think you did the right thing. I think we're like in our 50s. Like if I'm in a relationship like you're in right now, where I'm seeing somebody all the time, especially if I don't know whether your relationship is intimate or not, but especially if my relationship is intimate with that person, I I am not I mean, so well, I kind of almost caught myself. I can't say I'm not a believer in casual sex. I have had casual sex with somebody that I did not want to have a long-term relationship with. But if I'm having regular sex with somebody, then that person is my boyfriend. And that conversation is going to happen, if not before the sex, right after the sex, because I can have sex with somebody one time and it doesn't turn into a relationship. Maybe the sex is bad. And so we are going to go our separate ways. Um, but if you have sex with somebody, it's kind of like The Bachelor. I don't know how many people watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, but they go into, you don't know anything about it, Tom?
not a thing.
All right. So they go into something called the fantasy suites towards the end of the season. There's 3 people left. Okay. and they go into the fantasy suites. And I would believe that they probably are having sex with all 3 of the people, or at least 2 of the 3 people, or at least 1 of the 3 people. They can have sex with all 3 of those people. That's the intention of the fantasy suites, because the next week or 2 weeks later, they're going to be expected to propose. And I don't think you can propose to somebody if you don't know that you're sexually compatible. So when I say that I have a conversation with somebody about whether we're in a relationship before we have sex or after we have sex, at the end of the day, you don't really want to be in a monogamous relationship with somebody that you haven't slept with, because what happens then if the sex is terrible? I mean, you have to break up.
Well,
You
I
have
can
to,
just I can explain it from the Mormon perspective is that you never have sex with anyone until you get married, and then you don't know any different.
well, in my 50s, that sounds horrible. That probably would have sounded horrible in my 20s also. I think that you have to have a conversation. For me, for me, the conversation is generally before sex, and it's been a mistake. Um, but I think that that's a conversation that needs to be had after you've slept with that person, if you are still feeling like this is somebody that I want to be with, and I
Yeah,
don't want them to be with other people. I cannot even imagine sleeping with somebody that is sleeping with other people. I think it's gross.
yeah,
So
that's that's not okay. As Leonardo DiCaprio said in The Gangs of New York, I don't need another man's leavings.
no, that is truly just, yeah, just, somebody wrote a comment on TikTok this week. It was a disgusting male comment about the fact that there's nobody to date because all women have been so used up because they've been with other people, that he's going to be single forever because he doesn't want something disgusting that another man has been inside of.
Ugh,
And I don't even know if I bothered to reply to that, but I was like, what in what world are you single in your 40s or 50s? Even in our freaking 20s, we were sleeping around a lot more when we were younger than we are these days. At least I was. So, like, you are going to get
mhm.
somebody else. You can call it leftovers, you can call it whatever you want. We are all something that somebody else no longer wants to be with. That doesn't mean that we are not worthy or not great human beings, but somebody is happy to not be with us anymore. And we are so happy to not be with somebody else. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it goes around in circles. And when it comes to this email, I mean, dude, you're not dating other people, and you don't want her to date other people. And she's saying to you, you haven't said you don't want me to date other people, so I'm dating other people. Like, this is maybe one of the stupidest emails we've ever gotten. And I apologize. I'm not calling you stupid, but go back and read your email.
Yep.
Like, you like her enough to not date other people. She's waiting for you to tell her that. And instead, you're writing to us confused and frustrated because you're basically
A wuss.
wanting the same exact thing that she wants, and you just haven't talked about it. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe
I'm
she
with you.
deserves better. Like,
Just talk.
yeah, I mean, we a lot of our emails come down to communication, but in this case, like, I don't think I've ever had somebody write in and say, "Hey, I want the same thing that she wants, and I'm mad that she's
Yeah,
dating other
I'm
people."
confused and
Like,
frustrated.
just fucking define the relationship and move along.
Amen.
And
I'm with
and
you.
and that doesn't, listen, you guys, I want you to keep writing to us. It's very rare that I say anything derogatory about an email. This may actually be the first time. And I don't know that anybody listening thinks that it's derogatory, because it was a common sense situation. But please write to us anyway. I will be nicer, as you know. The email is talkingphase@gmail.com. Um, Tom, I feel really bad right now because I didn't ask you if you had anything you wanted to add to that
Nope.
email after I went off.
No, I think we're good. I'm with
Okay.
you.
All right. Talkingphase@gmail.com. Love reading your emails. I will always reply to them, and I will let you know if we're going to read them on the show. I'll let you know when, so that you can hear all of our wisdom that we have just imparted on you. So please, if you have a question for Tom or me, or you just want to suggest even a topic for the show, even if you just want to say hi or tell me what you think, was I too hard on him? Was it not common sense? Whatever. put it in an email and send it to talkingphase@gmail.com.
Absolutely true. And I love every time Pam sends me all the good ones. So keep them coming. And also, as we've already said, please take a minute, rate and review the show, share this podcast with your friends and your family. Tell them how great it is and how much it's helped your marriage or your relationships, or not helped you for that matter. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And with that, until next Friday, this is Pam and Tom signing off.
Hey, you guys. The next time we see you will be after Christmas, I think, the next time that we record. So have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, and enjoy your loved ones and your friends and family. And we'll see you after Christmas.